Hello there, commanders, and welcome to another episode of Chinese Faction Preview. And we are here on Dong Zhuo, on G Infantry, Pike Infantry. And well, I said in one of my previous videos, I think it was Liu Bei plus G Infantry, that Leonidas is still king of Sparta and Pikes. Well, Dong Zhuo might change it in theory. I haven't tested it, it's literally my first time playing it. So I wonder. Well, first, it is about Reign of Terror. Doesn't say about anything about not being usable while in Phalanx. So why do I think it's going to be good? Because Leonidas and his shield bash. Oh good, then they're capping it. No! That's not according to plan. Anyway. Leonidas has his shield bash, and that's his disengage tool, because the problem with Leonidas, or the problem with Pikes, is that once they get engaged, they cannot use Phalanx. And if you use shield bash, you knock back the enemies that were attacking you, and you're able to disengage and literally drop Pikes while in melee. So now what I want to test. Can you do the same with Reign of Terror? Because Reign of Terror also knocks back, and it isn't a strike. It doesn't give a shit about you connecting the strike or not. So it may be even more reliable than Shield Bash. But is it more powerful? Well, let's test this on these innocent slingers. I'm in melee, cannot use Pike Phalanx.
You shall submit.
I guess I can. They're still like technically within me, right? So I should be engaged in melee, but that brief moment of knockback from Reign of Terror did allow me to go into Phalanx. That's literally the Leonidas combo. Then again, Shield Bash is on a much shorter cooldown than Reign of Terror, but maybe only using one Reign of Terror, apart from all three, would be better. And then again, you're not very often finding yourself in such a situation that you need to use that Reign of Terror or Shield Bash to disengage because you've been caught and didn't deploy your Phalanx, right? And there's that to take into consideration as well. But that works, just like Shield Bash works. To be honest, I don't think it should work because it's kind of OP and broken, but, well, as Pikes in general are. But that's a topic for another day, right? We are focusing on Dong Zhuo's synergy with Pikes, and it is definitely very high, just because of that. Another reason, right, why Leonidas is so good with Pikes is because of his Final Shade, which gives him resistance to missiles, but that again is at the same time his weakness, because he can be permanently stuck with silence, for example from Caesar's javelins. They walk up to him, he's in fight in the shade, or well, he's in Pike Phalanx, they start shooting, he goes into fight in the shade, and once he goes into fight in the shade, they're like, haha, divided, Vici, haha, Vici, you're silenced. And you now cannot go out of your Final Shade, you're stuck. Maybe can you go out of the Final Shade, but you cannot enter Phalanx anyway. I don't really know how silence works. I guess I should, because I played this game quite a lot, but I'm usually the guy who silences enemies rather than gets myself silenced. Anyway, that's Leonidas, right? And that's kind of his weakness. Here you have Blade Breaker, which you can use while in Phalanx. So you can gain increased resistance to missiles. I mean, you have just damage barrier, so you're just blocking it. Obviously, it lasts only 10 seconds. Will be better with upgrades, right? But still, it won't be permanent as Fire in the Shade is, but then it doesn't also have that weakness of you cannot use both Fight in the Shade and Pike Phalanx at the same time, because they're both formations and you can only use one formation at a time. So while you're engaged or just being shot at and you have a risk of being charged, you don't have to give it up. You literally just stay in Phalanx, use Blade Breaker, and we're like, yeah, sure, shoot me. I have 30% damage barrier, I have 40% shield armor, plus 40% shield armor, and plus 50% body armor, which means you're literally only going to be doing the AP damage. And again, if it's javelins, it still fucking hurts. And not like you can deal more than AP damage with anything else. So, well, there's still 30% damage barrier. I don't. Oh, whoops! I wanted to quickly attack those guys, and now cavalry engaged me.
You are nothing.
Oh, there we go. It still works. With a delay for some reason, but it still worked against cavalry. I was about to say, oh, I guess it doesn't work against cavalry. Oh, it does. With a delay for some reason.
Fight for me.
But it does. Let's be tankier.
Attack.
Just G-thrust them. And again, blobbing with pike phalanx. Not the best of ideas. You kind of give up a lot of flexibility. Maybe it was... Oh, maybe because I had all 3 units selected. And that's when, if I have all 3 units selected, they will change their direction when I tell them to do that.
Destroy apace.
Right, but if I keep only 1 unit, keep its current direction. Ah, naruhodo. So yeah, I'm learning pikes in here. You would expect me to know how to play pikes, but no! I was an archer main all along. Like, pikes is literally like the only unit type that I don't really touch. So I play cavalry, okay, I don't touch, as a principle, I don't touch heavy artillery. For obvious reasons that anybody who watches this channel should be aware of. But that's a long story, let's say.
You shall submit.
Yeah, skew, let me turn. Okay, let me turn. Pull and burn.
Leave them with nothing.
I don't really see what they're doing with their pikes while I'm doing this. But there's only pike phalanx, so you can still use raise while in pike phalanx, no problem. You can use all the abilities while in pike phalanx here, which you couldn't with Cao Cao, for example, or with Sun Ren. You could with Liu Bei, so there's that. And yeah, Liu Bei had also nice synergy with immunity to silence, which we talked about in this video, how that is a weakness. Oh, we were going to cut their base, nice. Which we talked about being a weakness, right? So immunity to silence on Liu Bei, but it's less reliable. Here, a Reign of Terror is extremely reliable. You literally just use it, and it can't be interrupted. It's not a strike. It just... Oh, for real? Max is trolling. Max is straight up trolling. No! Why did you throw the battle? I almost finished what I wanted to say. No. God damn it. 1-1. Judge is coming in. Rip. Fuck you, Max. Get good. Like, really. Such a bot play. We had a victory, and you went pursuing something. Maybe, you know, he thought that, oh yeah, Mistry is recording a video, so I'll prolong the battle. It's too early to win. He's probably talking about Pike still. But again, yeah, Dong Zhuo, like Dong Zhuo is such a powerful commander. At least from what I have been able to test and experience so far. The Reign of Terror, that ability is ridiculous. And maybe just one is enough to make you disengage and drop all 3 pike phalanxes. Then again, you shouldn't blob a spike phalanx anyway. I mean, kinda maybe you sometimes should. It doesn't really matter when you... It does matter slightly. Yeah, it still matters when you face other units, but it's much harder to micromanage. While with single, right, the Reign of Terror may not be strong enough, but knockback. I don't think we should be independent, really. Again, if you were to spread really thin, like that AoE isn't that big. Like, it doesn't even cover your entire unit width. So if you get engaged from the sides like that, you won't even be able to disengage with Reign of Terror. So you need to stay kind of, you know, in a tighter formation. So no matter from which angle you're being attacked, a Reign of Terror can disengage you. Or disengage the enemy for you, I guess would be the correct choice of words. Well, ready to some base pike beams.
An enemy
Let's do it.
capture point is under attack.
Pikes ready. Pikes ready. Double time. Get into your groups.
Yes, get into your groups. Right.
Attack. Run.
I mean, then again, all the commander abilities are kind of situational, so you don't want to use them unless you really have to.
The enemy has lost a capture.
No, you're not going to attack me from behind. No,
Pikes ready.
not today. I could use this combo, so I do this. I disable my phalanx. I turn around, then I use Reign of Terror,
Warm up.
and then I phalanx again.
Quickly.
That literally allows me to
Pikes
do 180 with my phalanx. Like within a few seconds.
double time.
And I don't have to worry about whether or not my shield bash would be strong enough to disengage. Because Reign of Terror apparently just works. Always. Damn, that's OP.
Pikes ready.
You literally get just 180 with those spikes. And that's a very, very brief moment of vulnerability. Other than that, your pike phalanx facing enemy frontally. I mean, if you're surrounded and you're surrounded, you're fucked.
Pikes ready.
But, you know.
Okay.
And you cannot do it all the time because Reign of Terror is on a long 80 seconds cooldown. But when you can do it, then holy shit.
Group up now. Double time.
Pike phalanx, I mean, dogs still ignore pike phalanx even when they're not unleashed.
Attack. You will fight or die.
I thought.
March.
Oh no, it's the immunity to strikes that was applied only when unleashed, but immunity to phalanx is there always. Yeah, because it's a passive. Yeah.
Add them.
A new capture.
I now ban Reign of Terror. I don't need to use it to disengage. I'm already engaged perfectly how I want it. Anvil, but whatever. Yeah, so even when you're anvil and you're silenced, you can still disable your formation. So as you could see, I was able to disable my pike phalanx in there.
Pikes ready.
So if you were silenced Leonidas, you still would be able to disable your Find the Shade, but you wouldn't be able to go into phalanx while you're silenced.
March.
And obviously keep your standard combo of Dynasty of Steel, and then after that G-Thrust, or maybe you want to save your Dynasty of Steel for when you needed to increase your morale so that you don't rout. Because yeah, routing is only one of the very few pike weaknesses, and if Dynasty of Steel helps you with that,
Destroy.
then that's great.
Destroy.
And then hey, when you're fighting, just use Blade Breaker, be more tanky for 10 seconds. Even if the enemy somehow manages to deal damage to you, well, you can just mitigate 30% of it. Well, not really 30% of it, that's not how it counts, but you know what I mean. You apply 30% damage barrier on top of yourself. So when you're fighting a huge blob like this, for example, right? You enter the phalanx.
Enemy player has been eliminated.
Wait, this thing didn't get into phalanx. No, wait, Reign of Terror. Now it is.
Pikes ready.
I even nuked someone. And yeah, and then before such a big engagement, when you're just pulling through, or just before you start pulling through, that's when you use the damage breaker, blade breaker. So just before the enemy is even able to deal damage to you, because when you just frontally engage and keep them at a distance, they cannot hurt you pretty much. So once you start pushing in, start inviting them into your ranks, well, that's when you can use blade breaker. There we go. Blade breaker, because the damage barrier breaker, the blade barrier, I don't know. Blade breaker, a lot of words starting with B. And if you haven't used your Reign of Terror to get into phalanx after you've been caught, right, that's when you start pushing in. Blade breaker, get more tanky. Oh, whoops, enemy is still within my formation and not dead. Reign of Terror, he's knocked down. I reposition, he gets wrecked, he gets routed. all sorts of stuff. So yeah, Dong Zhuo may be the next king of pikes, or emperor of pikes, I guess, or emperor like regent, I don't know, or usurper, whatever he was. That little Han Dynasty emperor was his puppet, whatever that's called. So let me know down in the comments below what you think. Is Dong Zhuo broken on pikes? Is he as broken as Leonidas? Or is Leonidas not broken? Are pikes not broken? Is everything broken? Nani? Probably everything is broken. But if everything is broken, then nothing is broken, right? Well, whatever the case may be, whatever you may think about it, let me know down in the comments. While you're there, friendly that subscribe button. Stay tuned for incoming episodes of Chinese faction preview. There's still quite a lot to go through. And well, until then, I'll see you on arenas, battlefields, commanders that you should help me bring back to the West. Should have mentioned that. It's really important to me, personally. Nice music.